watching me sleep? No. No. No, no more. No more. Okay, fine. Fine. I'll read it. I can't believe you've been coming here almost every night. What else is there to do at night? Besides, you're interesting when you sleep. You talk. Twilight, the graphic novel, is written by Stephenie Meyer based off her original book, and it's also illustrated and co-written by Young Kim. I was curious to see what the differences were between the film and a graphic novel that's directly related to the book, because I have no desire to read Twilight, and you know, if you like Twilight, that's great. I think, you know, if you enjoy it, you should. Whether it's for a guilty pleasure or if you genuinely like the plot and the story, you know, that's okay. There's plenty of stuff that I really enjoy that that other people don't get why I enjoy it, and you know, that's all right. But for me, Twilight's just fine. Like, I mean, it's bad in a lot of ways. I don't like it. There are little things that I've enjoyed about the series, and it carries over into the graphic novel, but it has a lot of the same tropes and problems that I had with the film. And, you know, I went into it originally hoping that Stephenie Meyer would make improvements to the story in my mind. However, I have to give her props for sticking to her original vision, and I think that I think I would have actually disrespected. I think actually I respect her more for sticking with her original vision, because clearly there are people that really love that, and I'm not one of them. But I feel like she has more of a responsibility to her readers than to people that aren't her readers. And the Twilight graphic novels stay with the same spirit of the Twilight books and the Twilight movie, whatever your preference is. And to be honest, the graphic novel would be my preferred way to experience Twilight if I was to have to go into the series again. I would rather read the books than experience the movies, because, I mean, the art is fantastic. It's great. The art is really good to look at. I mean, Young Kim is extremely talented. These characters are brought to life. Even they're masterfully drawn, and every page is interesting to look at. And characters that I felt were drab or boring in the film are made more lifelike, and it really helps the story, because there's different transitions, and I've always loved reading comic books and graphic novels, and I haven't done a graphic novel review for my channel. But I just love that there are things that you can do in a graphic novel that you can't necessarily do in a book or even a film. And this is the best way to experience Twilight as a non-fan, that is my opinion. I mean, you still have the awkward dialogue. There was a moment in the book where Bella is new to the school, and she starts making friends, and one of her new friends asks her, "So how do you feel about forks?" And no kidding, I thought they were talking about utensils, because that sort of dialogue in Twilight would not surprise me one bit. But I guess I had forgotten that the town in Twilight was called Forks. And again, it's like Edward is the same as he's always been. He's that sort of on again and off again kind of guy, where he's like, he loves her one minute and then he just wants her to stay away from him the next minute. And it's like, and you know, I think Bella gets more frustrated with him in the graphic novel. She gets angry with him, like to a point where she doesn't want to talk to him to a certain extent. But she immediately just falls over in love with him, and I don't know. I mean, it's confusing and awkward, much like being a teenager is at times. So I mean, you know, maybe that's why some people really relate to this series. I don't like it at its best. I think it's fine as a film series and as a graphic novel series. Obviously, I prefer the graphic novel because of the visuals. Um, but, you know, it occurred to me that there are series that I like that have some of the same tropes. I mean, one of the biggest complaints about Twilight is the age difference. I mean, Edward's a couple hundred years old, and Bella is a 17-year-old girl. It's like, what could they possibly have in common? And it's like, I thought about it because, you know, one of my favorite TV shows is Angel, and I love this book adaptation too. And Angel is a spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and of course there's a romance at the center of that show as well. And Buffy is also in that age range where she's like 17 to 20 years old, and Angel is like a couple hundred years old. But people don't really rag on that as much. And I think the reason that Twilight doesn't get as much of a pass on that sort of thing, the romance is really the only thing that's interesting about these two characters. I mean, if you wrote a story just about Edward's everyday life and like he never met Bella, you might have some interesting vampire stuff. But really the core of his story and his entire character arc revolves entirely around Bella. And Bella is the same way. She has nothing interesting about her other than her frustration with Edward and constantly falling in love with him and also getting angry with him and being fascinated by him. But if she was to go off on her own adventures, there would be no content. Angel is literally a spin-off from Buffy. He goes on his own adventures. He has his own path of redemption. He has his own investigations. He has other loves, but the central part of the show is him trying to find his own path. I mean, his relationship with Buffy is a small part of it, but, I mean, if he had never met Buffy to begin with, he would still be an interesting character, and the same could be said for Buffy herself. If she never met Angel, she would still have the quest to be the Slayer and to be a protector of the people and to protect her friends. And she has other relationships that make her character interesting. But again, if she had never met Angel, she would still be an interesting character. But I can't say the same thing for Edward and Bella. And again, with Moonlight, we've got a vampire who is a PI, and then his love interest, Beth, is a reporter. And they do things throughout the series that are separate from each other. And while the romance and the chemistry is very well done, and I love this series, and I will talk about it on my channel very soon, Mick St. John would still be interesting without Beth. I mean, he is a PI. He has vampire friends that he hangs out with throughout the series, and Beth isn't always present during this time. And he has his own adventures, just like Angel does, in discovering who he is and how being a vampire has changed his life. And then you've got Beth, who is a very hard-hitting reporter. And, I mean, if we had a show just about her, it would still be interesting because, again, her entire life doesn't revolve around Mick. She still has her job, and she still has her own path that she has to follow. And the thing about these sets of characters is, with Mick and Beth, they make each other better and they make each other's path slightly more interesting, but their paths would still be a great story if they had never met. But again, with Twilight, that's just not the case. But again, there are people that really love this stuff, and if you're a fan of the Twilight series and you haven't read the graphic novel, I'm going to recommend it to you. If you're not a Twilight fan, like if you absolutely hated the movies or if you hated the books, this isn't going to change your mind. But, you know, if you're a fan of the series and you have checked out these graphic novels, I think you would really enjoy these. I mean, they're really nice to look at, and they follow a lot of the same beats as the original source material. I mean, Stephenie Meyer's soul and her voice are still very, very present in this book. And that's to be commended. I mean, she cares about her fan base and knows exactly what they want, and you know, kudos to her. And but that's all I've got to say about Twilight, the graphic novel, and Twilight as a series. I am done with it. I don't want to do any more book reviews for Twilight. Maybe I'll do, maybe, this is a big maybe I'll do a book review of the original Twilight book when I reach 1,000 subscribers. So Twilight the graphic novel, have you read it? What did you think of it? What's your favorite vampire series? Comment below, let me know. Urban fantasy and paranormal thriller books are available on ebook and paperback. All the links to that are listed below. Thanks as always for watching. Bye.